All right. Hey, Doug Roquette, Walla Walla, Washington in the house. Moises, good to see you. Good to see everybody. It's going to be a fantastic week, and we're kicking it off right here at Coast to Coast. First spammer of the night. Awesome. Hey, listen, man, it's going to be a fantastic show. Chris Simmons and Mike Lichter have an outstanding guest lined up for you. Make sure you put up your hometown where you're watching from, like David Crum in Butler, New Jersey, and we'll give you a shout out. It's good to see you guys all over the place. Big D checking in. Walter Bednarski, New Jersey. Always a good crowd in New Jersey. Kim Elliott, can't wait to come and hang out in July for Girls Weekend. Hey, look, we're going live with Coast to Coast in just about 3 minutes, so stick around, get something cold to drink, kick back and relax, and get ready for an outstanding show. I saw Fly Broad, Cody, Wyoming, Matt Murphy, Greenwood Lake, Robin, Higginbottom, Sparks, Nevada, Jimmy Bradley, Milwaukee, Ramblin' Rose, South Carolina in the house, Rob Nussbaum, Spam. Don't say it 3 times, it's like Beetlejuice, it'll be back. Linwood Jones, is this also on YouTube? Absolutely, Cycle Source Magazine's YouTube page. Fred Dunlop, Ontario, Canada. Mustafa in the house with us, good to see you here. Hey man, just 4 minutes. I actually screwed up the last time check, but 4 minutes, we're going live. Jason Sims. Jason, I made it. I got the studio put together. Hey man, stick around. We're going live at just 3.5. Marcus, how are you, wild man? Wow. That's awesome, man. Good to see you here. I'm doing pretty good. We're live and alive and kicking it. Kim Elliott, Brockton, Mass. One of my favorite places in the world, old Massachusetts. Heading up to Springfield pretty soon to finish up at Shovelhead Motor. All right, man, just 3 minutes now. 3 minutes and we're going live with this show. Make sure you hit the like and share button so your friends and neighbors know that we're going live with Coast to Coast. 3 minutes. Nancy Keener, hey, thank you for the props. Mike Draco, Cincinnati. Hey, listen, folks, I got to tell you something. If you're digging this kind of entertainment or all too will entertainment and you're looking for a source for it, you want to head over to Choppertown on Facebook and in YouTube. Choppertown has amazing programs like this one, several more that we produce here in Source Media, and also others from around the country, around the world, and some fantastic full-length shorts and documentaries. You want to check them out at Choppertown, one of our sponsors. We really appreciate their help getting this stuff out. So check them out. We're down to 2 minutes, short time, and we're going live with Coast to Coast. Brian Polson, catching you out, Bullhead, Arizona. Steve Henderson, Washington State. Mustafa's got a lot to say tonight. So good to see you here, man. Hey, we're down to 50 seconds. I think that's almost time to get this one out of the stable and up onto the racetrack. We're going to get ready here and launch this week's episode of Coast to Coast. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Coast. It's Tuesday night. You know what that means. More stories of wonderful women in motorcycling. This time someone from way across the pond. Let me bring in my co-host Michael Lichter, who's also pretty far away from me, but not as far as Vanessa. Hi Mike.
Hey Chris, how you doing this week?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks.
Great. I know you didn't do much skiing this week. We always talk about your skiing adventures and stuff.
I know. We had one awesome day, Sean, by the end of the week. It was absolute winter conditions and fantastic. But at least here in town, it's warming up. I mean, we were skiing the trees and bumps and lots of powder. It was awesome. But in town, it's drying up, so should be out on the motorcycle in the next week.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, maybe I should do that too. I'll think about that one.
Are you
Definitely.
wet? Yeah. How's the mud season going there?
It's drying up a little bit. We took the dog for like a 2.5 mile loop and took her swimming for the first time. It was pretty fun for me to see that little 6-month-old 50-pound dog splashing around in the water.
Oh God,
It was
50
great.
pounds at 6 months? Good luck.
Yeah. She's not a big one. She was the runt. What the hell? What did I get? I don't know.
Cool.
When
Well,
we
we
saw
have
some whales, it was really cool. We go down by the ocean, by this
Oh,
wonderful
nice.
little place there. It's really cool.
Living
Yeah.
in paradise, aren't you?
Well, right now I am. Let's talk about our guest tonight. My God, this woman is just amazing. I'm just so thrilled to just even be in her presence, and thank you to Rob for helping us find Vanessa, the girl on a bike who's coming in from pretty far away from London, England. Really, I don't think we've had anyone from that far, have we? So far?
Yeah, this is we do have some overseas people lined up. We have somebody from India in 3 weeks, but I think this is our first adventure overseas. So this is coast to coast to coast.
Yeah, we're really doing the coast to coast tonight. So
Yeah.
should we bring her in? Should we bring Vanessa in? Just
Let's
get
bring her
on
in.
it. All right, come on in, Vanessa. There you are. How you doing? We have to
Hey,
tell everyone what time it is there for you.
2:05 in the morning.
Oh my
You're a
gosh.
trooper. You're a trooper. Thanks so much. Now, I think by the end of this hour, all our viewers are going to know exactly what kind of trooper you are from looking at your photographs and hearing your stories. So getting up in the middle of the night is just a short part of it.
Yeah, that was pretty easy actually.
That's cool.
Cool.
So-
Well, I think we should, why don't, Chris, you want to do the intro and tell everybody
Vanessa
how,
Ruck, the girl on a bike. Vanessa has such a great story to tell. Born and raised in England, grew up outdoors getting muddy. And you can just take it from there and tell us your story, how you started with motorcycles and stuff.
well, let's even back up before bikes because you were a later comer. I know you had some contact with it, but you're kind of late comer to your passion for motorcycles. So why don't you tell us maybe a little bit about the accident and sort of this before-after type thing. Can you explain that to our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd pretty much describe myself as a motorcycle rider, racer, and adventurer now, but that's certainly not the way it's been. Life took a pretty dramatic change in 2014 when I was hit by a red light jumping car while cycling. And I wasn't actively an active motorcycle rider at the time of the accident. The motorcycles have become a really, really important part of my recovery, particularly on a mental side, because the recovery is not just being physical. But to give you a little bit of an idea of quite how life-changing it was for me, I wanted to take you back a moment prior to the accident, which was all about my sports. I was completely addicted to the wind, the adrenaline, and pushing myself physically. Kite surfing was my main sport. But on the 25th of March 2014, so anyone looking at dates, yeah, I just had my 7-year anniversary from the accident. I was.
And you're riding a bicycle. We must say it's not. You say cycling. You were on a bicycle.
Yeah, I was on a bicycle.
Right.
I didn't have a motorbike. I was cycling home from work. It was a pretty standard Tuesday. I was actually on the way to the lake to see my husband and meet some friends and go wakeboarding. Got about a mile down the road. I saw the lights turn green in front of me, so I'm pedaling on. And unfortunately, a car coming the other way decided not to stop at their red light. And they cut straight across in front of me, leaving me with nowhere to go. And I went straight into the side of the car. And in that moment, life as I knew it changed. And since then, I've been on a bit of a roller coaster, trying to get myself back to a point where I can be pain-free. I've had to readjust my expectations from pain-free to just being able to be physically active and push myself. I've had 7 surgeries, including a reconstructed right shoulder and right hip. So the photo we can see here is I think that was actually my first of 5 hip surgeries. And I guess I'm kind of on a determined mission to prove that I still can, and not let the injuries and what happened to me on that day take my ability to get out there and enjoy sports away from me.
So you got the idea to start riding a motorcycle while you're laying in bed, recovering from your bicycle accident. You just decided one day you're gonna ride a dirt bike. Is that how it started?
Yeah, pretty much. It is a little bit more complicated than that.
Right.
I was diagnosed with a couple of mental health disorders in the aftermath of the accident. And one of them was fear of the road. The other one was change disorder, which we can talk about any of these. So getting on the bike wasn't exactly easy, particularly after the injuries that sustained. There was definitely some mental trauma, but I was determined that I needed to fight that fear. So it actually started with me getting a little 600 Suzuki Bandit for my commute. And I did dream that up over a gin and tonic on a Friday night with my husband. I just sort of left the conversation. And I was like, can I get a motorbike? And he was just like, what? Okay, yes. And I was like, it's genius. I can save money on fuel. I can skip the traffic. I don't have to worry about parking. And it'll be really, really fun. And being completely honest, at that point in my genius Vanessa idea, I wasn't thinking about the reality of what getting a motorbike actually meant, i.e. riding a bike on the road. That was like the next battle. And that was kind of the first key step in me actually getting bikes post the accident, really on a practicality level. And then I got the bug that we all get. And
I can't imagine what it took to just decide that, I know what it's like to come back from an accident. I had an accident when I was 18. Nothing as bad. I had a broken leg in a couple of places and a lot of road rash. But I know how hard it was to get back on that bike. And I would, in a right-hand curve, I would always kind of tense up a little, because that's how mine happened, going down on a curve at 55 miles an hour. And I'll tell you, it takes a lot to challenge those fears and to come back. And that's really great that you didn't let it defeat you, for sure.
Well, and what you just said there, also there's a lot to unpack, because you dealt with, you brought up issues of pain and also the psychological problems that's come out of it. And either one of those issues can really stop somebody in their tracks. And some people have gone through, whether it's mental trauma or a physical accident, and get stopped in their tracks by either of those things. So I'm curious, maybe you have some advice, like especially, a lot of people deal with pain, and it's hard to get past that. I wonder, with pain, because it sounds like you are still dealing with it. So is there a point where you say you're going to have to live with a certain amount of pain, and now the question is how to deal with that and how to accept what it is? Or, how do you deal with that? We'll come back to the the other psychological problems after, but maybe you could start with the pain issues.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the reality with the hip is quite a complex joint, and I'm quite young. I ultimately need a new hip, which should, I'm told, make things considerably better. However, I'm not allowed a new hip yet because I'm too young, because you can only have so many replacements and they can only last so long, so I'd run out of hip or something.
Right,
So
you
at
would
the
not.
moment,
You would need another one because I talked to my dad because he's had both hips replaced at different times 30 years ago, and he said his is supposed to last maybe 18 years, and he's got 30 years on it now. But you're right, they won't do it because you're too young, and you'd have to have it replaced probably 2 more times in your lifetime,
yeah,
right?
Although,
exactly. And if you think about like a wooden stick, I'm simplifying our body, but there's only so many times you can drill into the same piece of wood. And it's sort of similar to that with hip surgery. Now, I'm very mindful of the fact that that's with the current medical knowledge and the way that things are advancing, particularly with things like hip replacements, because of how many people are needing them, that this is going to change in even 5 years. So hopefully there's going to be something better down the line. But for now, I've got to make what I've got work for as long as possible. And there is an element of the fact that the more I push my hip, the more I make it endure, because riding the bike certainly worsens my pain. But sitting on a sofa for too long will also give me pain. Not quite the same as motorbiking off-road, but I'm not going to not do these things just because I might need more surgery sooner, because I'm going to need the surgery anyway. And I think linking back to the other question about the psychological side of it, I only have one life, and the accident was a pretty rude awakening about how much you can lose in a single moment in what you knew or had as normal around you. And so I'm kind of on a mission to make the most of every day, because it could change again tomorrow as well. But also I only have one life, and giving up, sitting on the sofa in a duvet crying, watching Netflix would be a lot more miserable than trying to find little things to put a smile on my face and make the most of each day.
I must say, you're not just out there like riding on the street. You're riding I saw some. We have to look at some of your photos, but you're riding these dirt bikes through over these things, these giant rocks. And it's like, that is so physical. I can't even imagine doing that. It's hard on your regular, if you don't have the injuries that you've had. Someone said tough as nails here. I tell you what, you are tough as nails. Totally.
So are you dealing with pain every time you go out? You say the bike makes it worse. Is that road riding as well, or just the dirt riding and adventure riding you do?
The road riding will give me sort of a bit of extra hip grief, but not really any more than if I was to go out in the car. To be fair, the car, even now, 7 years on, hurts me more than being on a motorbike, because until you have a body part that's not very happy, you don't quite realize how much your hip is working going between the pedals on the car. And you're also sat in quite an aggressive right angle position. So the bike has always been less painful for me as a mode of transport, which is partly the reason why it kind of started and grew to be such a thing for me back earlier in recovery. But off-road, I'm definitely pushing it, and I'm sure I worsen the pain most certainly. But for me, there's a balance between the enjoyment and the pleasure I get out of it, and it makes the pain worthwhile, because I don't want to give up. I want to prove to myself that I still can.
That's great. Yeah.
Wow.
Never
So you just live with it. You figure out how to keep going, right?
Yeah, there's definitely
Or a lot of
things
Tylenol and believe, or what?
I'm really quite stubborn with my painkillers, which isn't always a good thing. Thankfully, my husband is actually better than me at knowing, do you need to take some painkillers? But I just don't like them. And there's actually a little article on my website about my 10 tips for dealing with pain. And the first tip is take your painkillers, and the last tip is don't take your painkillers, because there's just this proper love-hate relationship with them. I learned I've learned things over time that help me manage the pain. So I use like a complex, deep massage machine. I take active collagen, which has been a huge change of my actual joint health. Things like the tape. I actually rode we've been in lockdown in the UK. So I rode the enduro bike for the first time yesterday in 3 months. And, you know, I've got a reconstructed shoulder, so I figured it was probably going to be a bit of a shock to it. So I taped up my shoulder and my hip. You know, you learn things that help you cope and manage with it.
Yeah, what's going on with your shoulder right there?
So tape.
So it's
but what does that do for you?
The easiest way to describe it is like a big bear paw just holding my shoulder. The support and the stability that it gives your body is incredible. So I have it on my hip and my shoulder, and yeah, it looks pretty mad, but
amazing. I must say, before we forget, you know, if we're going any further, I forget, but your husband Alex sounds like such a sweetheart. I really I know that you got married 6 weeks after your accident, right? I mean,
yeah, that was
so much.
a pretty emotional time. I went from being a very excited bride through to pretty much just bursting into tears anytime the wedding was mentioned. Now, it might be worth mentioning a little bit of the roller coaster that my recovery was. So at the time of the accident, at the scene, I wasn't scraped up by paramedics. I wasn't a bleeding mess or any of that. I went to hospital in an ambulance, and I was discharged that evening with bruising. Now, bearing in mind that I've now had 2 reconstructed body parts and 7 surgeries, it gives you a bit of an idea of how much of a challenge it's been trying to get my body fixed. And so in some ways, I feel fortunate that at the time of the wedding, I didn't yet know the full repercussions of the accident. I was still in this almost little naive bubble of, you're going to be fine, just do your physio, keep taking your painkillers, you're going to get over it in a few weeks. And I was steroided up with injections, I had painkillers. My dress was modified to fit my shoulder because my shoulder was certainly not sitting normal. Like my right arm was 2 inches longer, but it was bruising. And so
there were months,
I did
there were even months though, right?
like,
Before you get your first surgery, you went months of being in pain before you realized you needed to do surgery, right? How many months was it?
So my first shoulder surgery was in the October. My accident was March. However, realistically, that surgery was a waste of time. I ended up changing specialists because I lost faith with them. And the full reconstruction I had was April, 13 months after the accident. And that surgery, if I'd seen that specialist, should have happened the week of the accident. And if you think about the recovery of the body, like our bodies are incredible at adapting, coping, modifying themselves to deal with their sort of the traumas. And so 13 months, my body had adjusted and learned, and my muscle had adapted to cope with my shoulder in its state where the surgeon described it as not properly attached, as in my arm. And so the rehabilitation from the surgery wasn't just the trauma of the surgery and the reconstruction, it was retraining my muscles to go back to where they should be because they'd had 13 months of coping.
Wow. Yeah, and it does, your whole body does adjust, like your hips. People don't realize I had a really bad broken leg, so my whole left side, I never realized, is still screwed up. Like your shoulder, everything, the way you hold yourself, because like you said, your body just totally molds to the injury to do whatever it's going to do. But I'm so glad they figured it out, and you have gotten the surgeries that you've gotten, and hopefully you'll keep going with that, and you'll get your hip when you get older.
You know, it's interesting, some of the comments we're getting, bionic woman, such a badass, tough as nails. There's lots of comments like that coming in. But, you know, on that note, why don't we bring up some photos? Because I think we need to show people that this woman was tough as nails before her accident and before she rode motorcycles. So we could start off. I know there's a couple of intro photos. But here we go.
Number 2.
It starts out with a couple of recent ones. It's just so everybody knows what we're looking. But next one is shot in Wales already in 2020. But the following shot here, we get to your winter sports, and I think you're looking pretty darn good on a snowboard there. I'd say you're flying through the air, which is great. And
Yeah,
then
it was a
I guess
big
your
level
real
of
passion
snowboarding.
was the next photos of why don't you describe these, because I think most of our listeners probably have no idea what sport this is, what we're talking about here. That was shot in the Sahara, which is probably a place many people don't know where it is.
Western Sahara, so it's one country south of Morocco in North Africa. I've been there a
Oh,
few times kite surfing. So kite surfing, which is this photo, I've got a big kite up in the air. I'm using the power of the wind to ride along on the surface of water. And that was the complete love of the sports that me and my husband did together prior to the accident. We lived for the wind. If the wind was going, we were at the beach for the weekend. And we
but there's
traveled,
no
we
power there, right?
keep
Can I ask you?
still.
There's no power involved, no boat pulling you or anything like that.
No boat. It's using a kite to pull yourself off the wind. But don't make that think that there's not much power. The wind is incredibly powerful.
Yes.
And the trick that I was actually doing there is, so that's a Rayleigh. I was pretty chuffed to master those. So you can see that the bar and lines are right out. Normally they're hooks on the harness around my waist, and you basically fully load the kite, leverage off the water to create even more load, and then pop, and it flings you forward into Superman.
Well, we got to zoom in on those muscles, because I don't think people can really believe what is in front of them there, because that is
really.
pretty insane. That is
I was,
really
I was
insane.
fit.
And then for our viewers
Pretty
also,
ripped.
totally ripped.
Yeah.
Again, this is the shot from the Sahara, and that next shot was actually in Brazil.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And coming up here in Scotland, demonstrating on some ancient rock.
Gosh.
There's some pretty good control going there.
Yeah, I'd say.
And then next with the bicycling, of course, is what led to the accident. Were you in training? Were you competitive with bicycle racing, or is this just for commuting? You don't look like a commuter in that shot.
Yeah.
That was me as a commuter. I obviously, if I was actually commuting, I always had a high vis jacket on and a bright light. That was just me on a pleasure ride by the beach. But I did 85 miles a week minimum. That was my basic, and it was my way to get to work. It meant I was doing 35 minutes of phys before I even got to my desk. That was free, and I enjoyed cycling. Basically, it was always just the commute.
Do you still ride a bicycle too? Are you riding a bicycle still?
Yeah, I do. I replaced the bike because the bike was sort of sadly no more after the accident. And I'm now over the 7 years, I describe it as a roller coaster because there's been lots of higher points and lower points. Now, with the complications of my injuries, it wasn't a massive surgery all up front. It's been I still really hurt. I'm 28 years old and I shouldn't be dependent on painkillers. Something's wrong, I know my body. And I go back to the doctors and they'd say, yeah, I'm really sorry, you're right. We totally missed that. You need more major surgery. So there's lots of drops where I have major surgery and there's been highs. So over the last 7 years, there's been months and months and months, years where I've not been able to ride a bicycle, not been able to ride a motorbike. And I've been, in full recovery mode or bedbound. But then there's also been those higher points. And so getting back on the bicycle was one of those things I knew I needed to do soon. I kind of realized growing up, I was lucky enough to ride ponies growing up. And I actually think the sole mission of ponies in life is to get their riders on the ground. But that's a different story. I was on the ground frequently and my mum would always pick me up, wipe away my tears, while secretly checking that I was actually not hurt and tell me to get back on the horse.
That's right.
And
get back up and get back on.
Get back on the horse. Yeah, I think it's actually, there's far more to it than just getting back on the horse.
That's right.
Because
That's
psychologically, the quicker you just do something, the less your brain can focus on it, dwell on it, blow it up into something even bigger and more terrifying, and all the what ifs and the the fear factoring of it. And I knew with cycling, I just needed to get back out riding. So I replaced my bike almost immediately. Okay, just sat there, but it was there to remind me I wanted to cycle again. And
you can't let that voice, that mental voice, that doubt come in, I think that
exactly. Really, and it was a long time until I rode it, but I knew I was going to fight that and battle that fear. At the moment, I'm only 11 months post my most recent hip surgery, and I'm up to managing, 45-minute cycle rides. So I'm pretty chuffed with that. I'm nowhere near what I was fitness-wise on a bicycle now. Hopefully with more time it will come. I can't fully load my hip in the same way as I used to. I don't think I'm going to be doing 100-mile random rides for fun like I used to, but I don't need to. I've got a motorbike. Why pedal when you can
one question about the accident. First off, Rob Nussbaum commented that it's amazing to him that a driver actually didn't see you as colorful as you're dressed, which is interesting. But one thing that has not come up in anything that I've read or heard from you is what happened to that driver? I mean, was there any consequence to
I wondered that.
To the accident, to him hitting you? Did anything come out of that?
Yeah, it was actually a she. She was a young driver. She'd only been driving 10 months, so she was prosecuted. She was given a driver's awareness course. So I'm guessing the driving system works slightly different in the UK. But you can get points on your license when you break rules, etc. She didn't get points. She got an education course to make her a better driver.
She got no points against her.
Unbelievable.
For changing your life.
Let's look at this picture again. This picture says so much.
In the hospital.
When you're lying in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just.
Your heart goes out. I mean, my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
It took me some time to process the anger against the driver. I don't have anger now. I realized that me being angry at her did nothing other than make my physical and mental situation worse. Because all that anger does is make this horrible knot deep inside your chest and make you upset and angry and bitter.
That's right.
And it was an accident. She didn't maliciously go, I'm going to go and hit Vanessa today. Accidents happen. And I'm still alive. I'm still very grateful.
Look at your
for that.
shoulder. Wow.
So she was prosecuted. Obviously no points. I do believe in karma, so that kind of helps a little bit. Yeah.
Well, good for you that you could let that go. And you had, I see Teddy was there to comfort you quite a bit, right? Teddy's in a lot of pictures.
Teddy is in a lot of pictures.
Is there a story behind Teddy?
You're never too old to have a teddy bear. That's what I can say. The photo there with Teddy on my face.
That's right.
Very good.
So, I just had my shoulder reconstruction, and my big brother came to visit me in hospital. And Big Brother, being Big Brother, wanted to try and put a smile on my face. And so he put Teddy on my face. Now, because I just had my shoulder reconstructed, I couldn't exactly move. So this was going to go one of two ways. I was either going to get really upset because there was a Teddy on my face and I couldn't move, or I was maybe going to smile because there was a Teddy on my face and I couldn't move. Thankfully, my big brother knew his little sister quite well, and in a moment of pretty horrific pain and discomfort, my brother managed to make me smile for a moment, and my mum got a photo of it, which is even better.
That's
great.
awesome.
Hey, you know what? Like, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk and show some more. These photos are just amazing. You guys are going to love them.
Yes,
let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back, Vanessa. Hold on.
We'll see you on the other side, Vanessa. Thanks.
And I just thought that I definitely want to do that. That's what I want to do. My current bike is a 2016 Harley-Davidson Road Glide Ultra. I think it would be awesome if when he's old enough to ride, you know. I'd love to be able to go riding with him. He won't want to ride on the back forever. We just did an exhaust swap, a slip-on exhaust swap.
My favorite part is when screwed both out, took them out, He did a test sound before that, and when it was all out, it was louder than it was before.
Oh, because we pulled the baffles out, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yep. I want to take people with me in my travels and stuff and show them the Midwest. Not just for the Midwest, but just to encourage people to get out there and explore. I'm Andrew, this is my son Gavin, and we are a Dennis Kirk family.
We're ready to race. What's your strategy? Go fast.
The Fueling name has been associated with racing and high-performance engines since 1974, when founder Jim Fueling started fueling the flames. From Daytona to Monaco, from the Bonneville Salt Flats to the Indy 500. Fueling is here to compete. Look for the Flying Pig to run up front this year with pilot Ben Bosman. Fueling. No bullshit, just performance.
And we're back. Don't
Very
forget to hit
cool.
your like and share button. I forgot to say that before. Yay! How about that little boy? I am in love with his voice. His little voice just gets in my heart and just, oh my God, no. Anyway.
Well, thank you to Fueling and Dennis Kirk. And, on that note, we should bring Vanessa back because we've been talking about a lot of other things. It's time to get back into the bikes because that is so much your life right now. And I think it's kind of interesting that the accident was followed by a Harley Davidson, considering our commercials here. So let's bring Vanessa back.
Right.
So I don't know if you saw those commercials, but a lot of our audience is Harley oriented. And we could bring on that next photo, which is your first Harley. But you have an interesting tie to Harley Davidson, and you talk so fondly about it, almost about it being like some sort of psychological remedy. You've made it sound that way. Why don't you tell us how that happened? I know it does go back to renting a bike first, but why don't you explain your tie-in there?
Yeah, so for me, I was at a point following the recovery. So this was nearly 2 years later, where I didn't really see the point in much. I wasn't able to do any of the sports or the hobbies, the friendship circles had all changed, and I wasn't a spa break or a city girl kind of holiday. So I didn't really see the point of doing any of those things. And so the first part in this is my husband was away in Afghanistan with the Royal Air Force for our wedding anniversary. And once he returned, I organised the 2 Harleys for an afternoon, just as a remembrance for our honeymoon and our wedding. And I got these 2 bikes the afternoon, zero intention to buy, can't emphasise that enough. By the end of the day, I kind of needed that bike in my life. And we then bought Thug, my Dyna Street Bob. And it was the best decision that we've made in my mental recovery from the accident, because at a time when I didn't have the freedom, the adventure, the pleasures, it gave me the realization that actually I could have a bit of fun. I could get some wind in my hair, a little bit of an adrenaline, and go on some adventures, despite physically not being very able. And Harley Davidson I would describe as like a big comfortable sofa with a potato engine. Once you're on it, you just sit and chill. I modified the peg slightly to help facilitate my hip position being the least painful. You're not using your arms, so my shoulder was pretty happy. And over the following few years, my husband and I did over 20,000 miles on our Harleys, and that became what we did. I also started to do some modifications on my Harley. So at periods in the journey where I wasn't able to maybe ride because I wasn't fit enough, but maybe I was strong enough to get out to the garage, I did a little bit of work on the bike and I learned some of the mechanics. So I even did push rods, lifters, cams, upgrade on the bike to give me a bit more fire in the V-twin. Did the obvious ones like bolt-on exhausts and air filters, wrapped it. So in a couple of ways, the Harley gave me a completely new focus and was certainly the best decision that we made. And it was also really the catalyst to me realizing that I really like biking. I was actually then bedbound after my first hip surgery when I suddenly decided I wanted to get a dirt bike, which my husband was pretty pleased with that request. So we did, we got me an off-road bike, and it all sort of continued from there.
Wow, that's great.
Wow.
I love this photo. This is the Alps, right? This picture.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah,
Harley.
that-
No,
So that was our first adventure riding
That's
trip.
Right.
So we went down to Bolivia in South America, and that was on the Sardinia, which is the largest salt flats in the world. Pretty crazy one there. So my husband and I always ride with Cardo Systems intercoms, and I rode for 5 minutes at 40 miles an hour with my eyes closed on the salt flat.
What was going on? I mean, what compelled you to do that? I have to ask.
Oh
Who
my
closed your
God, I
eyes?
didn't know
I'm
that.
sorry, I don't care if there's nobody anywhere. What compelled you to close your eyes and ride a motorcycle?
I may be a little bit competitive, and the tour guide from Novo Adventures who we rode with said that one of his previous guests down there was a bit mad and rode for a minute with her eyes closed, and it was ludicrous. So I was like, I think I can top that. We did 5 minutes. It's amazing that once you lose one of your senses, how your balance changes. And my husband actually had to tell me to like shift my weight left and right to try and keep me in a straight line. What I'd wished is that I had a GPS tracker on, because I was probably doing this.
Oh man, ooh, that's like Michael riding backwards. Michael rides backwards on film and photographs.
Somebody ride me. I sit backwards when I'm shooting. But it's interesting. There's lots of parts of your personality that are coming out. So there's this sort of daredevil sense, and with the Harley, I wonder if getting on that Harley soon after the accident, was there anything in there that people have commented that you're a badass in the comments section here, and I imagine you probably thought that of yourself, seeing as ripped as you were, doing your water sports and winter sports and whatnot. So did the Harley image, was that kind of jiving with you, that you felt like a badass on the Harley as well? Or nothing to do with it? I could be out in left field here.
Well, I was diagnosed with change disorder. So the way that manifested in me was a complete disassociation of myself. Vanessa was no longer me. Vanessa was that fit girl that could kite surf and do pull-ups and was really fit and strong and capable and could do sports. And this broken, useless, painful mess of the body, it wasn't me. I talk about myself in the third person, which is pretty confusing for other people, because they were like, hang on a minute, who's Vanessa? I thought you were Vanessa. It got me to a point where I realized that I needed help, because it wasn't okay. I needed to, accept. And it took having counseling, seeking help, and time to not necessarily get to a point where I learned to love my body, but at least I learned to accept my body, and really the realities of the fact that no amount of self-hate was going to change it. I had to be at one with it. I had to nurture it, love it, and it's the only body I'm ever going to have. I can't change that. Did I feel like a badass on the Harley?
Yeah.
Probably, actually, maybe.
Maybe just a little bit.
In the pictures,
Pretty
kind of
big
look like
bike for a little girl.
I think even your posing and whatnot, it feels kind of badass on the Harley. But then some other sides that we've seen, clearly you're an adrenaline junkie. That's Walter Bernard, he just commented that Vanessa is an adrenaline junkie. I presume you would agree with that?
Yeah, that's probably a fair way to describe me.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I'm wondering about is if there's a bit of an addictive personality in there. Like, you seem to go towards things and latch onto them and really go for it full tilt, like totally immerse yourself in it. Is that partly there too, or not?
I wouldn't say it was in an unhealthy way. I think it's
No,
more
I don't mean unhealthy.
proving
I'm not trying
myself.
to
Well,
I'm not trying
sometimes
to put a
addictive
positive negative
personality
thing
can
on.
be extreme, right? I wouldn't say I've got it in an extreme way, but
Right.
yeah, I'm put a carrot and a stick in front of me, and I'll get to the carrot.
we should talk
Releasing
about
my
we should talk about the girl on the bike. So you were in the hospital and you were laid up, and you just kept pushing yourself and trying to figure out what you're going to do, and you came up with this idea for a girl on the bike. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I was bedbound when I set it up, and being honest, I never expected for it to get to where I am today. When I started the Girl on the Bike, it was more of I needed a way to process some of my energy, something to focus on, and I was kind of hoping that I would find other people that are battling similar issues. Maybe we could help each other. Maybe we can, learn from each other's battles. What I didn't realize is that quite so many people would find energy through my story. So you can find me, the Girl on a Bike, on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I've got my website. But it's just kind of been a really incredible and overwhelming experience. There have been days where I know from the messages I get frequently that my energy has helped other people battle what is going on. And there have been days where my followers have seriously helped me battle what I've been going through. I remember there was one particular post a couple of years ago where I was in bed and I just posted the fact that I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't deal with today. And my followers got me out of bed, which was pretty magical. They, a lot of very kind messages and comments gave me the energy to keep going. And I think for me, if I can share my story, and it helps even just one person each time, it makes what I went through feel so much more worthwhile. Because unfortunately, we don't always realize what we have in life or how grateful we should be until things change and things are taken away.
That's right. And it leads us to a question Holly Perry has. Do you have a fear of re-injuring yourself?
Yeah, totally. But I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm very aware that if I have lots of falls, when I have falls on my hard enduro bike, I'm very aware that a fall that I maybe would have bounced off previously would potentially be a lot more impacting now. I always make sure I'm wearing all my full body armor and hip protection, braces, etc.
Wow,
but
amazing.
I don't want to give up and bubble wrap myself. And if I get injured out there on the bike, and at least I'll have had fun trying, right?
That's
it's a lot
right.
easier.
And boy, you do look at these pictures. I mean, your pictures are just, riding in Bolivia. Let's show some of these other.
But what I think is real fascinating, we could maybe turn the discussion here, is that this was a fun thing. You looked at it a way to share your story, maybe help others, and as it turned out, maybe to get help from some of your followers. Right. But now this has turned into, it seems to me it became a passion, and now it's really become your life. Your life is motorcycling, as far as I can tell. That so much of your life is involved with motorcycling. So you went from this just trying it out, and how did you make that shift? What transpired there to get it to being a full life of motorcycling?
Passion, positive energy, drive to get on any bike I could, any point, anywhere, anytime. I just wanted to ride. I felt so alive. I felt so grateful for the fact that I was able to get on a bike again. Right. Yes,
and also to get to places like this photograph of Bolivia is spectacular. I mean, that's. I presume you and your husband's bikes parked side to side while you took some pictures with the llamas.
Yeah, that was incredible. I think there were about 700 llamas, and at one point they were just completely surrounded us as the shepherd took them through up the road. It was a very magical feeling. Yeah.
Amazing.
My husband and I have always been enjoyers of other cultures and traveling, and the kite surfing took us to some, faraway places like Egypt and Western Sahara, Wyoming, snow kiting, Brazil. And
Texas.
we've just kind of shifted that to motorbikes now.
Yeah, that's great. You did have your honeymoon in Texas. I had to add that. Sorry. You had a honeymoon in Texas, right? I remember that.
Someone
Yeah.
actually asked if it was a hospital wedding, but I think we clarified that.
Yeah.
But so,
Thankfully,
how
it
do you
wasn't.
feel in terms of? Why don't you at least tell people what you were doing for work before this, when you had your accident and after?
Yeah, so I had a full career in marketing. I was an account director, which is like project management on large scale global marketing programs. And I know some weeks I was averaging 60, 66 hours a week in an office for somebody else. And in the aftermath of the accident, I kind of had a bit of a reality check of like, what am I doing? I don't need more money. I don't need to be sat in an office. I feel so lucky that I'm alive. And my career push kind of shifted. And I just kind of decided that it's not all about money anymore. It's about experiences and relationships. And, you know, I often get comments being like, do you ever buy any new clothes? My motorbike clothes, I tend to have nice clothes, but when I'm not on the bike, I still wear tops I had when I was 14 because I'd rather put the money on motorbike stuff.
I love this girl. Oh my God. You're incredible. You're so wise beyond your years, I have to say, you know.
So do a lot of viewers are saying the same thing. Wow. And so, Alex, since you do a lot of travel together and whatnot, how many more years does he have with the Royal Air Force before he could retire?
I think it's probably.
I asked that only because in this country, I believe
They're
it's
young,
20
right?
years, isn't it? So people retire quite young out of the military here. So I'm curious in England what that's like.
I think it's about 12 years he's got left if he was wanting to retire on, like, you know, full pensions, etc.
Is he going to make it?
We'll see. It's
You
I'm
have a lot of
definitely
excitement out there
wanting
that's
to
very tempting.
Yeah, we'll see. At the moment, the life works for us. We've been, touch wood, quite lucky in that he has obviously been deployed and he went to Afghanistan. He's been up to Scotland and various places in the UK, but he's in quite a stable kind of type of roles now. He's an engineering officer and it works for our lifestyle, really. So at the moment, we don't need to change it, but you never know what happens down the line. He can always leave if he wants to.
There you
I
go.
love this. I love these other pictures. I tell you this.
Yeah, let's bring some more
I have
up
to ask
here.
about this one where you're. Look, it's these huge boulders.
Yeah, the
I
one
mean,
in Wales. Let's bring that
What
up.
is that?
And this is just from
Okay.
a year ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. So there's a little bit of a backstory on this one. I was really lucky. I was riding with Toro Trail, which is an off-roading place in Spain. And I met Paul Bolton, who is one of the top hard enduro riders in the world. And I did some riding with him. And off the back of riding with him, we're on WhatsApp. He was like, V, you need to sign up for Valleys Extreme. And I just laughed. I was like, whatever. He was like, no, seriously, get it done. You need to see Valleys Extreme. And so Valleys Extreme is one of the notoriously known hard enduro races in the UK. It's in Wales. It's grueling. I think it's like a 3-hour race through horrific survival terrain. And he was like, no, you can do this. I'm like, I think I'm going to die. But I then thought, Paul Bolton isn't going to set me up to kill myself. He knows my riding and he thinks I'm capable. Let's try it. So we signed up, me and my husband signed up to do the practice day, absolutely loved it, and ended up doing the full race. That's me on the finish line. You finish in categories based on how many laps you manage, and I managed to finish in the silver category. I was planning to just try and survive a lap. So I was really chuffed. And that race was the start of my full-on love for hard enduro. It is brutal, it's painful, you're screaming at yourself various times and surviving, but it is incredibly satisfying. Now, the picture that we had, I think one back where I was falling over, yeah, that one. So I fall over quite a lot. That's kind of normal in this kind of sort of riding. But this photo is a particular example of where my hip fails me on some occasions, where I'll put my foot down to certain angles and my hip will just go, nah.
Oh,
And it just
wow.
won't have me. And that's okay. I will fall over. I'll get back up again. I'm loving the close-ups of me covered in mud, falling in rocks.
Yeah, there's a
If
lot
I'm
of
not
photos of you in mud on your website, I have to say.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't that your bad shoulder you're falling on at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be.
Wow.
Jeez.
But we have some
What do
more
your
beautiful
parents-
photos.
What do your parents think of this? What do they
good
think?
question.
You know what? They weren't too pleased when I got the first bike. They really, really didn't feel comfortable with that, particularly with the accident that happened. But now they absolutely love it. I got my mum on the back of a bike with me for the first time last year,
Yeah.
and mum on the bike.
I know. I love that picture. We didn't show it, but you guys can see it on her. You got to go to her Facebook or website. It's on there.
Yeah.
I saw it.
That's
So
great.
cool.
Let's show some more pictures from Wales.
Oh,
What
beautiful.
a gorgeous place. I know that Wales is not very populated as well. There's
there
a
you
shot
go.
of one.
There's
That's
your
great.
mom. Look at that. Oh, how sweet.
And where do your folks live? Are they in Oxford?
No, they're actually over down in South Coast. They're about 3 hours away, but they are moving, and they are going to be moving near us, which is really exciting. So
Nice.
hopefully they'll be within 20 minutes soon.
Very cool.
Great.
So
Wales. Let's look at this Wales photo.
that is gorgeous.
Oh,
Man.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? I don't know about our viewers out there, but it sure makes. I've never been to Wales, and seeing that photograph, I want to go. That is beautiful.
Wales is
Oh
absolutely
my God, that's gorgeous.
gorgeous.
Really beautiful.
Some
And what
of
is it?
the-
A trail you're riding? I'm gonna look at this
That's
road.
called the
it's
King's
beautiful.
Road or King's Highway.
Right.
Quite a well-known trail in Wales, and it's got some really rocky sections, and it's lined by this beautiful. Sorry,
Wow.
just got overexcited and knocked the table.
Okay.
It's got some beautiful dry stone walls down the sides. It's just stunning. The rolling hills are where Wales.
I'm there right now. I'm thinking about it. And then you go through the water. I love that one.
Yeah, the
Riding
water
through the
crossing.
water. I know. You're amazing.
So,
Now, is this part of the
yeah.
race, or was it just fun going through the water?
That was a training day. So I was at KTM Sweet Lamb learning some riding technique.
No, I know when I never really did dirt riding until I went to Nepal with Motorcycle Sherpa, but for me it was pretty intense realizing how big those rocks are under the water. I presume it was the same right there where you are?
Yeah, definitely. You have to be ready for
Wow.
anything.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Wow. Do you ever teach? Have you ever thought about that, or not there yet, or don't have the time? Oh my goodness, look at that water. Isn't that beautiful?
That's a
God,
great
that's
shot. huh?
gorgeous.
You wish you
That's
took that
great.
picture.
I know.
See
I hate
that?
saying it, but I wish I took that picture is right. Vanessa, I'm going to have to come to England and photograph you. Or
There
maybe
you
you'll
go.
come to
Deal.
the States on some adventure and we'll meet up.
Or I'll come to you. That sounds way more fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Or we'll meet in Africa, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
There we go.
Look at
Wow.
this next one. These
That is
photos,
awesome.
your photos are just so cool.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
this next one is a trail bike, but it looks like trials to me. And of course, you have experience in trials as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was again on another hospital bed trying to work out how I can get riding sooner. And the trials bike is a much smaller bike, less of a risky style of riding. So I decided to get a trials bike so that I could do some skills before I was able to take the risk of getting on an enduro bike. I then realized that the skills were incredible, even for my road riding improved riding trials. And then once I was able, like here, I started to transition that skills onto the bigger enduro bike, which then led me into the hard enduro. So yeah, these are some pretty meaty agricultural tires.
That's pretty intense. I'm sorry. So I wish I could see 3 shots of that. I want to see you on top and coming over the other side. Now, were you going like pretty slow so that when you came down the other side, the front wheel was in contact with the big tire, or did you kind of fly off that sucker? That's up.
You
That's
have
pretty
to
up there.
try-
That's
You
big.
have to try, depending on the obstacle and how high it is, you have to try and like jump off, so that
Look at
you.
tire.
Oh my
Oh my
goodness!
God.
Look at the tire.
don't
Wow,
die.
that's right on the rim.
Yeah, so I ride in mousses, which gives you like lots of grip, because it's slightly lower, but you can't get punctures because it's mousse.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it like?
Gosh.
How do you go over that thing? I'm still
Slowly.
That thing is huge.
So roughly, you're riding into it. A good kind of roughly, the way I kind of work it out is as high as the obstacle is, as far away. So if you were to do that, you've got to compress your suspension. As it rebounds, you're going to brap to lift the front wheel, to kiss the wheel up and over it. You're then going to brap again and compress and bounce to then lift up over it. And then you brap to not nosedive off the other side. That's a really quick summary. You asked just now if I've ever thought about teaching. Lots of people ask this. I honestly don't think I'm good enough to teach yet. I could probably teach the basics, but maybe in a few years when I've got a little bit more riding under my belt, because bearing in mind I haven't actually been riding that long. If we're talking maybe 4.5 years.
God. I keep reminding myself that because you haven't been riding that long. You're really 5 years? 5 years? My gosh.
When did you get on the first trail bike?
It must have been about 5 years ago. But I've had obviously another 4 hip surgeries.
And that's taken you all over the world.
Sheesh. Amazing. We're getting so many comments. Brian Polson says, from being hit by a drunk driver and being paralyzed myself, I was told I'd never ever ride a bike again. Keep the shiny side up and keep riding. It's good for the soul. Great work. So you're inspiring people already. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And everything you do. Now, I guess a lot of your website also deals with travel, or isn't that correct? Why don't you tell us about that aspect of your site?
Yeah, I feel like to be a better rider, riding in different terrains, different conditions on different bikes really helps give you that. And I also love seeing different places and the cultures you get from traveling. So being able to combine travel and bikes is a massive win-win, particularly because you're learning new skills, you're riding. And yeah, I always share those adventures. So if you would head to my YouTube, for example, there's some really incredible videos from riding in Iceland off-road. That was pretty amazing. Got stuff from Sardinia. I just kind of like riding motorbikes.
I love these photos from Iceland. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just curious, because I mentioned trials before. Do you actually own a trials bike?
Yeah, I've got a Beta Evo 250.
And so where do you go to practice that? Do you have a course somewhere?
So about an hour from our house, there is a trials club that we have joined where you join and then you've got access to this quarry whenever you want. And we tend to go there to train, and, practice on rocks and logs and all that kind of stuff. And then that translates over onto the enduro bikes. I
would imagine that would be an amazing training for enduro off-roading, to have those trial skills. Confidence must be a huge help to your confidence.
How many motorcycles do you own? Do you know? Did you count them?
So I've got the Harley, I've got the Husqvarna 2-stroke T250i, I've got the trials bike Beta Evo 250, and then I have a Africa Twin adventure bike just for this year. And then I just try and ride any other bikes I can get my hands on. So I'm not shy about what I'll ride. So this is Iceland on 701s.
Amazing. Yeah. And we have to tell our friend Holly Perry says, "Who's your photographer?" You told us a lot of these photos are from your iPhone, right? Maybe
I got to give Holly a hard time because I think maybe Holly's looking for a photographer, and I don't have mustard anymore.
No,
your photographs are great, so I have to commend you. Do you have mostly one photographer that goes out with you when it's not you and your husband?
No, it's just my husband. We have my iPhone and we have GoPro and then the drone, and we just nearly every photo is on my iPhone, and my husband's got better and better and better. He's brilliant.
Very
between
good.
us. And then a lot of the video is just me with selfie, so you can see I'm just videoing myself.
You look so comfortable doing that. I must say, more than most. You have this great smile when you're kind of just talking to your own camera, and it's like you're talking to your audience right there. So you're very good at that. Yeah, Keith Kronoff asked a question which has not come up yet. Does she also do most of her mechanical work and repairs? So tell us about maintenance and repairs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow,
And,
look at you go there. That's you?
yeah.
I could watch this all
Iceland.
day.
It's incredible, Iceland. There's 5 different Iceland videos on my YouTube, so lots of viewing. So the mechanics, being completely honest, my husband and I wouldn't be able to afford the bikes that we have if we didn't do the mechanics ourselves, because the maintenance, particularly on the enduro bikes, they're highly tuned race machines. It just wouldn't be financially viable for us. My husband is an engineering officer in the Royal Air Force, so he has he's got one of those brains that understands how to look at it and go, how does this work? And I've learned a lot through him over the years. I'm also a big fan of YouTube videos, bike manuals, etc. So there's a lot of things on a bike I don't yet know how to do, but there's also a lot of things that I've learned how to do. And really easy things like tire changes, wheel bearings, oil changes, filters, stuff like that. No dramas at all. I have done a couple of top and bottom engine rebuilds with my husband around. And it's just a case of realizing that it's kind of like cooking. As long as you follow the recipe and you know where everything is, you can give it a go. And I really encourage people to give stuff a try.
YouTube is changing that landscape quickly.
That's great.
Let's bring on some more photos. We're getting a little late in the show, but I do want to get through these photos of Iceland there.
I want to go to Iceland.
Beautiful. I want to go to Iceland. I want to go everywhere, but whenever I see pictures of places, it makes me want to go there.
I know.
It's so cool.
Iceland's gorgeous.
This is back in England, the badass Harley shot, right?
I love that shot.
Badass one with the badass Harley. And then we're off to Iceland. Now, I must say, on the right side of this photo was a guy that did not exactly have a six-pack. And when we were first meeting in our pre-show, I said to oh, is that your husband? And she just about had a heart attack.
No, she said, my husband's ripped.
That was the response.
Yeah, so this is the only time when bikini and motorbikes are allowed to meet. So we were riding in Iceland that morning. So we rode with locals. And the guy said to us, right, Vanessa, pack your bikini today. I'm like, ooh, okay. Because we had a bag that went on a support truck because the sort of terrain you wouldn't want to be carrying everything. Anyway, we're in the middle of nowhere, and then suddenly we just see this picket fence and hedge line. You can see it in the YouTube video, and we sort of ride through, and there's this disused swimming pool that is fed by a hot spa. It was boiling. It took us a good 10 minutes just to get in because it was that hot. And man, it was amazing. All of the like muscle aches from riding for days.
Sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful. And this with some beautiful shots in the landscape coming up here with Iceland.
Oh my gosh.
We could roll through a number of these actually.
So gorgeous. Yeah.
It's
Iceland.
the land of extremes.
Oh my goodness. Now that's some
There's that arm up again. Yes, the arm of triumph.
Yeah.
That is such a cool picture. Wow.
Actually, this one is about my favorite. I just love that blue sky and oh my goodness, I want to be where this is Iceland, but that is it looks like moss, the color of moss, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely breathtaking landscape. That river was actually quite scary to cross. We ended up having to get each bike across with 3 people because the river was so fast flowing and deep that you couldn't risk anything. I actually ended up falling over in that river and got pretty wet and cold, but like wet, which is the most important thing, and that's why you take 3 people across. So basically I was the back person on the bike, and with my hip I'm not exactly agile, and the 2 guys just went faster than I could go, so it was a different bike to this photo, and I kind of lost them and got left in the middle of the river. And the water was so strong that without the tripod of holding something and being there as a pod, my feet just got swept out from underneath me. I got wet.
You're definitely
Thankfully, one of the
inspiring people.
Vikings was really
Keith
close
Cronoff
by.
here. Keith Cronoff commented, even at my age, which he did not say what his age is, but she's giving me the inspiration to take my riding comfort zone to a new level. There's a lot of comments in here that show that you are inspiring people. You'll have to go back and read them. Now, we have some photos now from Sardinia in Italy, which another place. Oh, God.
Look at that sky, huh?
Oh, my goodness. That is gorgeous. Now, this was part of, was this with Dainese or?
Yeah, with Dainese Expedition Masters. We actually rode a full lap of the island. So Sardinia is an island off Italy.
Oh,
and
God,
it was 50-50 road off-road. So the Tenere 700 was ideal. That was really nice trip.
I presume the food and wine matched the riding?
Oh, yes.
Now, was this a practice thing, just trying something out, or?
Yeah, this was training, and a lot of people look at this and go, what? You need to back squat it, turn around. The reality is different bikes, different situations, different bodies have different benefits of the different ways to pick up a bike. So, for example, with my Africa Twin, I'd always back squat it, but because the Tenere has such a tall bar, this is the easiest way to pick up the Tenere for my body.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So yeah, proving that I could pick up the beast of a bike.
Is that your husband amazing. Watching? Is that your husband watching you?
No, he's one of the guys from Dainese.
Okay.
So and then with this next,
okay, I don't need you.
Wow, that's great. With this next photo, we go back to England, and I don't know where it is. You're gonna have to tell me because that is a gorgeous place as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's down in the southwest near Exeter. I was actually at the Honda Experience Centre. They do some off-road experience days, having a go on Hondas. England is the UK is a very beautiful place. It really is.
Wow, that is gorgeous.
Really beautiful. Yeah, great.
And then a couple more photos to wrap up here. Back to Wales. Some portraits. Boy, you do get in the mud, don't you?
Yeah, I feel like the mud just gravitates my way.
Yeah, there's a little mud.
Wow. That's great.
You must do a lot of cleaning of your bikes, and your gear just must get just totally destroyed.
Oh, look at that. Even with the mud on your face, though, it looks like it's made up somehow. It's perfect.
You're in your happy zone.
You look wonderful there.
You're in your happy place.
Really wonderful.
Definitely.
Well,
wow.
You're going to have to go back and, like I said, read some of these comments. And they are coming not quite from all over the world today. I think I only noticed 2 other countries other than yourself. Somebody from Canada and somebody from Libya, actually, was tuning in. So we have that. And anyway, lots of great comments. You'll have to read them. But your story is certainly inspiring to many people on many different levels. And so I encourage everyone to check out your social media and your website. And is there anything else you'd like to share?
Thanks for listening, really. I hope my energy can give someone else an energy.
I was going to ask you where do you see yourself in 5 years, but you're living the life. You're living large, so who knows, right? What do you think?
We'll see.
I'm sorry. Do you have any thoughts on that?
We'll see where the road takes me.
There you go.
I do have one question, and that's since the accident in 2014, it's only 7 years later. Where may you have been had the accident not happened? Any thoughts to that? I'm not asking if there's regrets or anything like that. I'm just curious if you were headed in a certain direction, or because I'm guessing motorcycling would not have been part of it.
I think I would have continued to push my career. I was really hooked on progression. I would be working stupid hours. I'd probably be on silly money, and I'd be trying to kite surf and do things in my spare time after work at weekends. Possibly we'd have had kids by now, but that's all kind of been set back because for the obvious reasons. So in some really strange way, I'm kind of almost grateful. because of where it's brought me to, the strength it's made me realize that I have, the gratitude and appreciation. So it might be slightly sadistic, but in some weird way, it's a journey I was meant to be on.
Wow. It's
Well, everybody should check out your
so
website.
a toast to motorcycles on that count, right? Because I'm sure we certainly don't wish that accident. We would never have wished that to have happened. Where it happened and you've dealt with it, but your life has come to an amazing place. And by the way, somebody else chimed in, it hadn't before, they're from Portugal. So I imagine there are some other people from around the world that may start chiming in here. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And for you, I know it's after 3 a.m. for you.
I was going to say, thank you for staying up for us. We really appreciate it. It's been wonderful to meet you, and I hope to see you in person someday.
And I hope to photograph you someday.
Yes, I'm a yes to both of those. I think for me, one final thought is that I honestly think the world of social media can be quite a toxic environment with all these also perfect, shiny lives. And I just kind of want to remind people that it's never going to be the true reality. Everybody has their battles, their pains, their things that they are fighting. And something that I'm always on a mission to make sure I do through my channels is show the ups and the downs, because life isn't perfect, but it's about how we deal with it, process it, and come out the other side stronger. So just sort of remember that when you're looking at social media and feeling sad about how your life isn't as shiny and as perfect. Life isn't shiny and perfect, but we've got to make the most of every day.
I think that's a very powerful message to end on, and it is absolutely so true.
Good for you.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you. I just, you're such a great example of how to live. Just live, right?
That's the mother in Chris talking, of course.
Yeah, I know. She's the age of my kids. So.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Vanessa. You take care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
We'll have
Thanks
you on
for
again.
being with us. Great to get to know you.
Have a great night.
Yeah.
Sleep.
Yeah, have a good sleep.
Have a good sleep. That was fun, huh? Wow, that was so cool.
That was really pretty powerful. She is inspiring.
Very inspiring.
I would like to, and we did have people, again, it's crazy to mention all the towns across America. I appreciate people writing where they're from. And some of our regulars, Doug Roque, Nancy Keener, Dave Crum, Walter Benarski, Mike Draco, Jimmy Bradley, Rob Nussbaum, of course, and Jason Sims.
Thank you, Rob. Rob's the one who helped us.
Absolutely.
He recommended
so just from all over. But again, we wouldn't have had Vanessa on tonight if we not put an appeal out for our viewers to make suggestions to us. And we're booked out now for about 4 weeks. Next week we have who do we have next week?
Van Ham.
Jackie Van Ham. Oh, is she an great, wonderful person, super energetic? Awesome. The week after we have Kelly Yazdi from Hawaii, another great story. Then we have Shilpa from India. So we have them coming in from around the world, and I hope you continue to send us suggestions. So on that note, we should really let people know what else is coming, because tomorrow night is the Motorcycle Cannonball, the Cannonball Chronicles.
Yay! I'm not sure who their guest is, but I wanted to do a short. I know it's today the last day for your photo thing that we can buy prints for the charity.
Oh, you know what? Thank you very much. My goodness, I am the worst.
I knew that you forgot, and I just wanted to say I have to get in there, and there's a couple that I think I might want to get. So can we still do it?
Yes, you can. You can see them on my social media. Actually, to buy them, this is 100% of the proceeds. I'm not getting anything out of it. It's all through Old Bike Barn. And you can go to Old Bike Barn's website, and it says Willie's fundraiser there. It's Willie's Tropical Tattoo. It's his favorite charity, and it's for vets. And it's a real practical group that the money is used in ways that just helps these guys get out and go to dinner and go to different places and just get them out and about and lots of things in their daily lives. So all the money's going to that. It's actually working quite well. There's they're 10-inch by 15-inch prints. There's 14 to pick from. And there's some right there. You can see them. Right on Old Bike Barn. There's there's landscapes and
something for everybody.
And there's Richie Pan that we miss so much. That was Richie's last ride on his last day. And there's a variety of stuff. So if something appeals to you, all the money goes to the vets. So it's a good cause, and it's, I guess, is there 31 days in March? So tomorrow's the last day.
Tomorrow's the last day.
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that, Chris.
You're welcome. We want to thank everybody again for listening. Thank Chopper Town, Cycle Source Media Group, Rob, everybody, Heather and Chris, totally, of course. And you, Michael, thank you for being my co-host.
Yeah, don't forget, everybody, to tune in Chronicles tomorrow night. And on Sunday night, of course, if it's Sunday night, it's Shop Talk.
Shop Talk.
And of course, if you want to travel coast to coast, come back and see us on Tuesday.
That's right. We'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good
Thanks,
week, everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.